But you still need light on your face.
Let's see how this looks.
No, that light's killing me. That one with it looks like the Jesus haze is. Oh, that's much. Oh, now it's worse again.
Yeah, but then I lost my face. Wouldn't that be a problem? Let's see here.
Episode 2 of Shane and the Handsome Young Man video show.
I don't think he realizes we're live yet.
Oh, are we live? You guys are assholes. Like, okay, I know that Shane says he's the worst, like right in the name, but Chase, you're a liar. Yeah, screw this. Okay, guys, if you're watching this right now, we're having camera issues. Specifically that my new camera makes me look like an albino. So we're gonna experiment with some different lamps. And lamp-related activities.
Sure, it's the camera. So you know what we should get you, because you're in Canada and there's no sun there for 6 months out of the year, as everyone knows.
Yeah,
Science.
it's true. Yeah,
it's because you guys don't believe hard enough in Jesus. So we should get you.
Yeah,
we should get you those circle sun like lamps that they sell now. I just saw them recently. It's because people get sad. Oh, you have that?
Yeah, that's what I have. I have one light right here, and then I have another light, the circular one right here.
So it's to pretend it's the sun, so you don't commit suicide in the winter.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the case. I also have fingers pointed at the back
I'm talking
of
about
my head.
the suicide lamps, not the whatever you're talking about. Also, I think suicide lamps is probably not the official name, but whatever.
Well, speaking of official names, like we're still trying to come up with an official name for the show. What do you think of suicide lamps?
Suicide lamps and used meat.
Oh my God, we need to get this show rolling, man.
If you're in the audience tonight, this can be a fun little game, okay? If you can come up with a name for this show that's better than used meat or suicide lamps, you won't win anything, but I'll appreciate it.
I don't think that's
We're getting the show kicked off. Let's go.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
Yeah, you guys are in it. You guys are in the show.
No, that was great. So that's why you asked me how to pronounce my name.
Yeah, and when you were talking about vanilla, and then John Swanson actually said, like vanilla, but with an M instead of V, right?
Yeah.
Look at that.
God. So welcome on in, guys, to Fantasy Intervention. It is guys' night out or boys' night out or whatever the hell we titled the show. Shane, you're not dressed up, man.
Boy.
Shane, you're not dressed up. Is this how you go out, man?
Yeah. What the hell?
I even put on a collared shirt for this. Okay?
I have a collared shirt. I have a hat because I haven't cut my hair in 11 months, but I did put on a collared shirt.
You're wearing a hat and a rug, so I don't want to hear shit from you.
No, it's actually I get my hair cut on Friday for the first time since literally a year from now. It actually might even be to the date. But COVID's been an interesting experience. So the mane is finally leaving on.
No, I feel bad for you. You couldn't get a haircut because of COVID. I had COVID. I almost died. But you couldn't get a haircut for a year, so I definitely feel for you.
Dude, Shane's on one today.
Wow.
Shane is on one. He is ready to rock and roll.
So fantasy football.
Yeah. Oh, man. Here we go. What another episode coming at y'all. Of course, we have Boys Night Out, I guess is what we're going with, at least for now. If you guys have a better name for the show, put it in the comments. Please put it in the comments. But no, this is something as to where I want to give Jakob an opportunity to kind of get his own show. This dude's intelligent. He knows what the hell he's doing. He knows what the hell he's talking about. So I wanted to give him a little bit of a shot. Just a little bit of a shot. See what he's got. Put together a show sheet. Let us know what he's thinking inside of that gigantic brain of his. What the smartest guy in Canada, right? So with that being said, Jakob, what's going on? What's on our show tonight? And then, of course, we'll introduce our guests. Well, I guess our regular people on here and do our little introductions.
Yeah, so I mean, main things today, we're going to talk about dynasty myths. We put a lot of creative thought into this. Specifically, it involved me texting Shane and saying like, hey, what the hell do you guys want to talk about here on Tuesday? And this is what we came up with. So we're going to talk about some dynasty myths today. We've been brainstorming all day, and we want to hear from you folks in the comments as well what some of yours are, and we can either say if we agree with them, we can say if they're dumb, all that stuff, and we're going to talk them through. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to go over some of today's news. I don't know if you've heard, but it's Irv Smith, SZN.
Season, let's go! Let's go, baby, let's go!
So we're going to talk about Irv Smith, who's apparently Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Kellen Winslow, all built into one.
Winslow, not Junior, right?
Not Junior.
Oh, okay.
Not Junior. The first one, the OG. Yeah.
No, he doesn't drop balls like that. We're good. We're safe. We're safe. No, of course. I'm very interested to talk about that with you guys. So let's go ahead real quick and let's start out with Shane down there. Shane, where can we find you? How do we know that you're qualified to be talking about fantasy football, man?
You honestly don't. I mean, and I think my Twitter account at this point, it's just nominally a fantasy football account, right? I think people understand that. Yeah. Like there's some fantasy football, but there's mostly just me blabbering about other stuff. But that said, Dynasty League Football, which is the best fantasy football website.
Bro.
Besides,
no, I'm just kidding.
It is. Not,
Yeah, you're on another platform here, Shane?
They let me write for them. And they let me do a YouTube show, Mannequin Chill, for them. And they let me work on a Dynasty draft guide, which we're going to be announcing literally any second. Like I might.
He just announced it.
Yeah.
I think it's announced it
somewhere else.
Well, 14 people just heard it. So
wow.
15. We're up to 15. Maybe it's 14.
Yeah, let's go.
15 people know the news. Shane just broke the news. Yeah. Holy shit.
I got to get my kids to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Let me just send them a text.
18. We're at 18.
Oh, man. Jacob, where can we find you, man? What's going on?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. You can find some of my work up at Join Our Circle. We got
underscore.
Join Our Circle _. Join Our Circle _.
You want to send them to a knitting company, bro? It's Join Our Circle _.
Is it a knitting company if you don't go to the underscore? Is that a thing?
It's a cult.
It's a circle. It's a knitting circle. I swear.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I think that would be great. Honestly, if
they haven't been active since 2014 or something. So
okay, well, so it's an inactive knitting company. I mean, if you want my fantasy advice, you can find it at Join Our Circle _. If you want my inactive knitting, you can find it at Join Our Circle. You can also find some of my fantasy stuff soon at Player Profiler. Article coming out probably this week over there. And right now, you can find me right here with these two lovely guys.
Oh, that's so sweet, man.
I know, eh?
Nice to you.
God. You don't have to be. I don't expect that.
Oh, man. Yeah. And you guys can check us out at Join Our Circle _ once again. You guys can find me at FF_intervention. Of course, I'm going to be coming out with a lot more content because guess what? It's content season. Been working on some stuff behind the scenes with the website. So if you guys actually have a fantasy football company, you're part of a smaller company, and you actually are looking for writers, you're looking for content providers, get in touch with me because we can actually get you on this new page I'm working on, where we are trying to link up newer companies with newer writers and trying to, help everybody out with their exposure and building up their fantasy football companies. We're actually going to be doing a show on Fridays, every Friday at noon, where I'm going to be talking about how to start a fantasy football podcast and how to get into that kind of stuff. Got Dennis from Dynasty Nerds on with me on Friday. I'm stoked about that. He's their editor over there, so you can tell all y'all who are looking to write what not to do and what bugs the living hell out of him the most. So very excited for that. But yeah, let's get this show kicked off, baby. Let's get it kicked off. We have our first little segment. What is that, Jacob?
We're just going to talk about a little bit about the news of the day and whether it matters. So first one, David Johnson, the very old running back of the Houston Texans, famously traded for DeAndre Hopkins. There's running back years. It's just like dog years, right? So he's only 29 or 30 or whatever. But in running back years, that's like 86. He restructured his contract. He's playing for less. Houston, they might have a quarterback, maybe. They certainly don't have a defense.
He restructured his contract.
And what was that?
Oh, that just messed up his whole vibe.
Yeah, okay, well, whatever. DJ restructured his contract. Is he good? Do we care? Is this a sell high in Dynasty? Is it a sell for anything you can get? Do you actually want David Johnson on your team?
Go ahead, Shane. Okay, don't go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, whatever. You're not going to sell him for any great profit, right? You're not.
I can't possibly imagine you can.
No one's giving you a first for him, right? So
maybe a late second.
Late second. What's the hit rate on a late second round pick?
Better if you don't take Kadarius Toney.
Well, he'll be gone.
Get out of here! Get out of here!
He'll be gone in the first.
Chase, that's called a drive-by.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah.
Damn it, Jeff. No. So when it comes to David Johnson, I can understand on a contending team, trying to hold on to him. But if you're on a rebuilding team, I'd rather take the shot on, trying to find a late second round pick, early third round pick, and hoping that you hit. I believe traditionally, when you talk about second round picks in non-superflex leagues, I think they have lower than a 20% hit rate. So it's not often that it hits, especially in a late second. But you can still find guys. You can still find guys like Antonio Gibson, who was like mid-second. A.J. Dillon, I believe, was mid to late second. Chase Claypool was late second. Did Shane just get off?
Are you okay, Shane?
Just because you're naming the one outlier year where there was like 4 guys that hit in the second round, which would still only be.
I'm still bringing them up because this year's draft is just as deep as last year's. Now, the late second
draft,
33%.
Do you get yourself some Kenny Gainwell, maybe? Get some Jamar Jefferson, maybe?
Yeah, I don't think Kenny Gainwell is going to make it out of the first. Jamar Jefferson could absolutely sit and make it. Actually, I'm kind of curious to see if Jamar Jefferson could be a featured running back somewhere. But anyways, with that being said, I'd rather take the chance on a rebuilding team than just holding on to a guy for no reason. Like if you're rebuilding, why would you keep him?
I mean, the timing is everything. As Join Our Circle _ foremost specialist on rebuilding teams, my advice would be to hold David Johnson now, because right now everyone else is exciting, right? Like Jamar Jefferson is exciting, Kenny Gainwell is exciting, Chuba Hubbard's exciting. All these guys are exciting. And then eventually, like in August, September, when all the exciting guys are playing special teams, that's when you can go ahead and go large on David Johnson. Because then you might get that mid-second, right? If you get that team that has an injury, they need the RB2. That's, I think, when you can get a stupider pay up for David Johnson. So I would hold right now. But yeah, obviously, if you're rebuilding, you don't want to roster him long-term. I'm seeing in the comments that you should try and get Irv Smith for David Johnson, which might have been a good idea yesterday. But this is what they call a segue, I think. Irv Smith. Is it Irv Smith SZN? Kyle Rudolph is no longer a member of the Minnesota Vikings.
Wait, what does SZN stand for?
That's not how you spell season.
It's how the cool kids say season. There it is.
Season.
Irv Smith season LFG.
Oh my God, that was scary shit. Where did that come from?
So we're done with David Johnson. Did we move on?
We don't have to be. I mean, the Texans.
I got nothing else.
I thought the Texans were. They aren't.
Hey, Duke Johnson is out of town, so maybe he takes over a third down role.
Right. There's only one D Johnson in Houston. Thank God.
Jamar Jefferson is going to the Texans.
That would be bad for David Johnson.
Oh man.
So yeah, Kyle Rudolph is gone, and if anyone in your league thinks that this has somehow boosted Irv Smith's value, first of all, they're not good at fantasy football, and two, yeah, trade with them because they're not good at fantasy football. I like Irv Smith, but this doesn't mean he's going to break out any more than he was going to break out anyway. I still think he was going to be a top 12 tight end next year anyway. It's not like he's going to all of a sudden be a tight end 3 because the 40 targets that Kyle Rudolph was getting are available now.
I mean, those 40 targets are pretty big numbers. Like he can end up being a top 6 wide receiver this year. It's very possible. We've seen a major increase in his production over the past couple of years, and this kid's young. Like he came in the league at what, 20 years old, I believe.
Very young.
Yeah, I think it was like 20 and a half or something like that. So, I mean, he's probably sitting right around 22 years old by this point. He has all the freak abilities when it comes to his speed and whatnot. I don't love his athletic profile when, just kind of thinking back on it. But at the same time, he just had the tools to make a tight end successful, So I love Irv Smith Jr. I think that he could potentially be a top 6 tight end, but I do think that they go out and they draft another tight end this year within the first 4 rounds and watch another guy develop. So I don't know about him as a dynasty asset. I want to hold him this year, hope that he breaks out, and then moving forward, I'll probably try and trade him, although I love him, but try and trade him in the 2022 offseason.
Why are you trying to trade him?
I want him to break out and hit his peak because I think that the Vikings are always going to use 2 tight end sets.
Based on
their history of using 2 tight end sets.
I mean, I'm not a big coach correlation guy. I mean, I happen to think this might be the last year for this coaching staff, really, unless they actually make the playoffs this year. But I do think Irv Smith is quality tight end. I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, like I don't have very strong feelings about this group of young athletic tight ends. Beyond like I think Hawkinson and Fant and Andrews are in a different cut above. But beyond that, if you want to tell me you like Jonnu Smith, Irv Smith, Mike Gesicki, even Pat Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, any of these guys, they're all kind of the same to me. If someone's, going to give me like a freaking late first round pick for Irv Smith, I say go ahead. Because at the end of the day, like if you don't have Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, and maybe one day Kyle Pitts, my guy comes into this conversation.
Hawkinson.
No, not even Hawkinson. This is the thing. I like Hawkinson. I had him a ton last year. But if you don't have one of those top 3, like, do you really ever, like when there's the different games that come on at the different times and you're checking, okay, who on my fantasy team plays when it's like, okay, it's time for my tight end to play. Are you happy? Like, are you excited if your tight end is DJ Hawkinson?
Absolutely.
Then you're more optimistic. I'm anxious. I'm like, oh man, like I really hope he gets me 10 points. Because at the end of the day, like if your tight end isn't one of those top 3 and they don't score a touchdown, you're probably getting like 5 for 50, which is like, I don't know. It's just so whatever to me. So like, to me, if it's either you get the elite tight end or you kind of punt tight end. So with a guy like Irv, like if his value is going to be really inflated, I'd rather try to parlay him up to a guy like a Waller, or, maybe just go down and take the asset, spend it elsewhere, and I don't know, invest in the next young tight end. But
Hawkinson's only 23.
Yes.
And he's only had 4 games with below 9 fantasy points. 4 games last year with below 9 fantasy points. Like that's about as solid as you can expect from a tight end. And with him being 23, moving forward, being the only potential option, because obviously the news wasn't great coming out today with Kenny Galladay, I like Hawkinson, man. I think that Hawkinson is a smash play, and I think he's locked to be top 4. And if injuries happen, like to George Kittle, like we saw last year, maybe age starts to catch up a little bit with Travis Kelce, not a lot, but a little bit. We might see a hindrance just a little bit. Like I'm talking about, maybe 2 points a game type thing. I think that Hawkinson could could slot into the top 3, potentially top 2 this year. I'm very high on Hawkinson, very high, especially Jared Goff, who's shown to love his tight ends or his receivers that are coming out of the slot.
I see top 4. I don't see him passing Kittle. I don't see him passing Waller. And if Fant gets a quarterback, I think Fant will actually produce better than our boy Hawkinson.
Man, that's tough.
I like Hawkinson. He's definitely, the best of the rest at tight end. I'll say that. And maybe he makes that leap into the top tier.
Cooter said that he's a red starburst, which in her rankings of people, that's the second tier.
Okay.
The first tier is pink. The second tier is red. The third tier is what are the other colors? Because I got 2 yellows and I always had those.
Black. There's black.
There's black. Okay. Black is third and then yellow is last.
There's black starbursts?
No. No, so
I haven't had a starburst like 3 years. I'm learning as we go here.
Anyways, you need to go check out Cooter Doodle's article over
That's
there
true.
on fantasyintervention.com. It's a great article on how to build a dynasty team and how to draft. I absolutely adored it. And she talks about black starbursts. So see, black starburst with an exclamation point. All right. So let's go ahead and hop on. Do we have another?
Yeah, we had a really quick one. It's saying that it would be an absolute shock. The beat reporters are saying it would be a shock if Miami does not bring in a feature back. Just how low is too low to sell Myles Gaskin? Is there a floor?
No, sell his ass now.
I like Gaskin. I do. They've shown no effort to try and draft or get a dominant running back. Like they went out and traded for Matt Breida, 5th round pick, right? They went and acquired Jordan Howard. They don't care about the running back position. They don't care.
They were building a team, so they got a quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. and they got some linemen. So now they're going to go ahead and get a running back this year. I'm telling you, it's going to be.
They still need to get linemen first.
Look, who's
their head coach?
Brian Flores.
Where did he come from?
Came from the New England Patriots.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought he was from like San Francisco. I'm not sure where he grew up.
No, so people New England Patriots where they don't care about running backs. That's their whole philosophy. That's the philosophy.
They drafted Sony Michel in the first round.
6 years old.
How did that work out?
So you don't remember. They used to have
Curtis
featured running backs. They had Corey Dillon.
Or Corey Dillon. Wait, do they have both Curtis Martin and Corey Dillon?
Curtis Martin.
Okay, Corey Dillon.
Curtis Martin.
That was my mistake.
Okay, so Bill does whatever his personnel allows him to do. The personnel that he's had has been a mishmash of like, well, this guy's good at running into the back of his lineman, Sony Michel, and getting injured. This guy's really good at catching balls, James White. And then this guy's really good at, stealing fantasy points, Rex Burkhead. So that's how he used them. That's how he deployed them. But if you get Travis Etienne or someone like that, maybe a Chuba in the third.
I could see Chuba Hubbard going there, but that's not going to take away from his passing down work. So, I mean, Myles Gaskin right now, I was doing my dynasty rankings for Dynasty Nerds earlier today, and I was going through where everybody has them, and I'm like 83 spots higher or something at running back 20.
What? Chase?
Running back 20. As a PPR monster in a blind Brian Flores philosophy, right? Where, by the way, we have Jordan in the comments saying they're implementing a two co-coordinator offense. So, we don't even know how it's going to look, but essentially they've always relied heavily on passing to the running back. And if he just gets the receptions in, just the receptions, he's going to be set. He's going to be fine.
But Chase, to your point, what they also did last year is they relied on one back. One back was getting the receptions and the carries. They're not going to draft, and they will. They're going to draft someone high. They're not going to put him in a committee role with Myles fucking Gaskins, who I had a great year and happy for the kid. And he got me second-round draft picks. That's freaking awesome. But if a real running back comes there, that dude he's done. He's eviscerated.
You're saying that Chuba Hubbard is a real running back that can handle a 3-down roll?
Yeah. I mean, more than Myles Gaskin can. I mean, come on. Like,
don't make me trash Myles Gaskin.
No, but Myles Gaskin, like, look, I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I don't know. I haven't met him. Maybe he's terrible, but I think he's a nice guy. And he's a nice player, but like, he's nothing special. Like, we even saw it last year, right? Like, they had the guy Savon Ahmed who came in, who runs like a 4.6 and he weighs 190, and he was churning out 5 yards a carry. Like, I just don't see Gaskin as anything particularly special. Shane, why don't you settle this? Chase, you said you have him at RB20. Would you like to know where I have him ranked in my dynasty running backs?
He was
I'm going to go with RB 76.
I have him at RB 46.
He was RB 28 playing 10 games last year.
Right, playing. Now he won't be.
Oh my God! Get out of here, Jacob. Oh man! All right.
Look, I agree with you to an extent. Like, if he has the job, I'm sure he'll be a top 20 running back. But
wait, Jacob, did you tag the wrong thing when you put up the post, or was that me?
Shane is the warts.
Shane is the warts.
Shane is the warts.
Oh, that's amazing.
No, okay. So real quick, I haven't had warts in some time. Okay, genital warts.
It was you.
Go away.
You blamed me, but it was your tweet.
I asked you. I said, was it you or was it me?
Well, but you first jumped to me, and it was you. It was Shane. Shane is the worst.
I'll take it 100%.
Jordan pointed out something that, and I kind of agree with him here.
Yeah,
Aaron Jones in Miami. They might go after Aaron Jones. Something fierce.
I actually have Kenyon Drake landing there. After Aaron Jones goes to the Cardinals, Kenyon Drake goes back to Miami under a new coaching regime to an extent that actually did trade him.
Wait, so if Kenyon Drake's there, you still think Myles Gaskin would be the RB20?
Oh, yeah. Trade Kenyon Drake?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Brian Flores shit-canned him. He was like, I don't want this guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He goes back there.
We got law firm guy in the chat here. He says that Jacob drafted Gaskin. Don't believe him. He's a big fan. Yeah, It is true that in a league that I'm in with Law Firm Guy, I drafted Myles Gaskin mid-season, and I said I really hope someone's a chump and will give me a second-round pick when he does something. And then after that, he got injured, and I never got a second-round pick, and I'm now trying to shop him for the 3-8. So that's where I'm at. But maybe I have the RB20. So if I do, then maybe I'll hold on. Gaskin is the real deal, according to Dominate FF. So that would be good.
Dude, I'm telling you guys, Gaskin is going to be a thing over there, and they don't need to go draft another player. Chuba Hubbard's not going to go to like the 4th round, by the way.
Okay.
Maybe 5th.
It doesn't matter if they need to, okay? Because it's the off season when we come up with narratives of why our favorite players are going to end up in the best landing spots. So either Aaron Jones is going to end up there, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, or Chella.
I wanted DeAndre Swift to go there last year, but that obviously didn't happen.
Same.
All right, so what's up next on our show?
I think we're going to actually do the show. We're going to talk about some Dynasty myths. So I'm going to go first.
That's a good idea.
And what I'll say here is if you have one in the chat, if you have a myth for us to discuss, we're going to go through some of ours, but it's pretty loose, pretty freewheeling. So if you have one that you want us to discuss, by all means, post it in there and we'll chat about it. What are you guys laughing about?
I was laughing at Cooter's comment. No,
Cooter's funny.
Shane's kids.
Meanwhile, you guys are telling my kids I got genital warts.
All right. So myth number one is that Shane has
real
warts.
Quick, Faith. I'm gonna get it back up here. I'm gonna get it back up here. Don't worry. I forgot all about it and I realized it like right when the show started. But Charlie and Lucy will be back staring at me again. And you guys. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying. So myth number one is that Shane has genital warts. Myth 1A is my first one, which is that because of longevity, wide receivers are more valuable in Dynasty than running backs. It's something that I always hear. It's something that you usually hear whenever you're trying to trade for a wide receiver, not usually something that you hear when you're trying to trade for a running back, funny enough. But something I found, and this was very much my perspective when I first started in Dynasty, is I was very much of the perspective of like, this is my team and I'm going to have this team, for an eternity. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at these running backs, especially these 25, 26-year-old running backs. I'm like, man, I can't believe people are investing in them. I could just take like Odell Beckham, who's, the consensus wide receiver 1, and I'll just have a stud for like 6 years. And that didn't really work out. The biggest reason is we all know from playing redraft that running backs, especially the elite running backs, give you the highest value over replacement week in, week out during a season. And, Dynasty is about trying to pick out how much does that week in, week out value go versus the longevity of a wide receiver. But what you can notice is if you look at, a Dalvin Cook, look at an Alvin Kamara, these guys are still going in startups like really early. If you're in a non-superflex startup, these guys are going like top 6, top 7 picks. If you're even in a superflex startup, they're going right around the turn. And they're going to be 26 next year. So if you have opportunities to get really young running backs that are good, like a Jonathan Taylor, like a DeAndre Swift, like a Cam Akers, like an Antonio Gibson, these guys, you can get them, you can ride them for like 3 to 4 years, and you can sell them pretty much at the same value that they have now when you look at these guys like a Cook, like Zeke last year, if you were able to get off of that bus, like an Alvin Kamara. Basically, if you could just ride these guys for the duration of their first contract, sell them, you're pretty much good to go, and you're getting a lot more value and sustaining that value by being able to still seemingly trade it in for the younger up-and-coming guys or for a wide receiver at that time if you want. What do you guys think about this in terms of wide receivers versus running backs in Dynasty?
Well, you talked about riding and getting off, and I just lost all focus about what you're talking about. But no, sitting there and looking at it, it's interesting just a little bit. It's interesting to see, where you can acquire these players, because we sit there, we look at a trade, right? And I don't know, Shane has obviously a little bit more experience with current trades that are happening, obviously with his podcast from Dynasty Trades HQ. But sitting there and looking at it, like the same offers going out for like Devontae Adams that were also going out for Christian McCaffrey. Shane, you're on mute.
No, I'm not on mute. You all just can't hear me. No, Christian McCaffrey's still a more desirable asset, but the only issue with running backs is cashing out at the right point. Because if you held on to Zeke till now, even though he just had an RB7 season, RB8 season, whatever it was, he was top 10, bottom 10. You see trades like Ezekiel Elliott for Myles Gaston and Raheem Mostert.
Like you don't actually see that, do you?
No, you do in Dynasty League football. I went on their trade search thingy, and that's an actual trade. Another trade is a 2021 first, Irv Smith, a third and a fourth for Zeke and Tony Pollard.
Well, Irv Smith is worth like 3 firsts.
I hate Ezekiel Elliott, and I think he's got 2 seasons of top 24 production in him, but I will trade Myles Gaston's, Raheem Mostert, and their entire fucking families on a real level. Like, go pick them up and drive them to your house for Ezekiel Elliott. And just the first shit.
No, that's I don't know. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it and I'm like, these top tier wide receivers, I don't think are valued anywhere close to the top tier running backs. Although it's like, we're saying that they have the same production, but would you do a straight up trade for CMC for Davante Adams?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
not for Davante Adams, but I'll tell you what, I would think about it for probably CeeDee Lamb next year.
Chris, don't get out of here, Chase.
Chris Godwin, man. Dynasty receiver number 2. No, so
as in like the second wide receiver.
You would actually do that? No.
Not today. I'm talking about projecting in a year when Christian McCaffrey is N25, which is.
But we're talking about the best running back. We're talking about the best running
Christian
back.
McCaffrey.
Dynasty running
Jonathan
back.
Taylor.
At the time, Jonathan Taylor.
No.
For CMC. I mean, for CeeDee Lamb.
No, I'll take CeeDee Lamb.
Over Taylor.
Yeah.
Who's going to be your number one running back?
Jonathan Taylor.
Who's my number one running back?
In 2022, you think? If you just had to guesstimate, obviously, I know we're a year out, we don't know the situations, but I mean, is CMC still going to be your number one?
J.K. Dobbins.
Okay, so what are you going to take CeeDee Lamb over J.K. Dobbins?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, so Shane is the one reporting this myth. Shane is the myth.
But I wouldn't have to because I understand the market. So I know I wouldn't have to do that.
No, you wouldn't have to, but that's what I was asking essentially was like, I don't think people value wide receivers as much as they do running backs in most cases. But the whole myth is that, wide receivers are more valuable. But then you look at the market and it's like they don't value them that way. So it's kind of all over the place to an extent. Because,
that one, it's scarcity. 2, its wide receivers are super inconsistent, even at the top level. So it's easier to fade them knowing that he's probably, I'll say he, right? That's fine. I can use a pronoun for the NFL. He.
I mean, he just said sold or sell. So, I think you can
right. Like he's not going to give you running backs, top tier running backs. You can expect like 9, 10, top 12 weeks. Wide receiver, if they give you 8 top 12 weeks, they're going to be a top 12 wide receiver. And except for Davante Adams and Michael Thomas, not this year, the year past, they're not incredibly consistent. So I think that's part of it. We get in season and we love consistency because then we don't have to think, and we think consistency is something that actually exists.
Are you reading that? This is what Shane does. He gets really distracted, and that's the reason.
Like, I didn't know you were going to have moving stuff at the bottom. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And yeah, Hollywood Titans got a point too, though. It is partly that wide receivers are deeper. Like after that first, 15 running backs, it's a shit show, right? It's a lot of like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know who's going to be good, so I'm going to draft all of them. Whereas wide receivers, there's about Scott Connor, co-host on Dynasty, Mannequin Chill. He always brings up, but there's 158 different wide recievers put up wide receiver 3 weeks last season, and they come out of nowhere. So you can replace that production.
Data chart on that, and they are kind of spotty week to week, which is something I was going to talk about with my next myth, with a myth. But yeah, go ahead, Jacob. Did you have anything else to add to this one, or are you ready to move on to your next myth that you want to bust? Although you didn't bust this one.
I mean, I think it's busted, but we'll let the people decide in their leagues. I mean, my point is, right, and you talked about J.K. Dobbins and CeeDee Lamb, right? Like, if that's a trade that you would make, that's fine. It's not a trade I'd make, but it's a trade you could also make in like 4 years. Right. So like you can ride Chase, you can ride J.K. Dobbins for 4 years, and then you can move on from him, for CeeDee Lamb if you want to 4 years from now. Or better yet, for like Bijan Robinson, if there's any Devy players out there, that's the 2023 top running back. You can just move him for a guy like Bijan.
Bigsby.
I prefer Bijan. Do you like Bigsby? Is this now a Devy podcast?
His name is more fun. His name is Tank.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, but mine sounds like some form of mustard. That's pretty fun.
I like mustard. Oh, if we could combine a mustard and a tank.
Oh my God. Could you imagine if Bijan Robinson goes to the 49ers and then you have Bijan and Mostert? And that's
no, because Mostert will be out of the league by then because he'll be 32 and running backs are dead at that age. But see, so here's the thing though. The window on selling a running back is so fine. You have literally 1 year to get out on them. They're 25, and then historically their production crashes over the last 5 or 6, 7 years, and that could be because the classes weren't that great, and we'll see with this current class. But whatever, the perception's out there that 25 is the age cliff for running backs, and that's reflected in the value. Look at Zeke. Zeke's only 25, and here's another trade I just saw for him: Mark Andrews and Robbie Anderson. Oh. And I love Mark Andrews. I don't even know who Mark Anderson is, but I love Mark Andrews. I see a 2021 second, Mike Williams, Tariq Cohen, and a third for Ezekiel Elliott. That's
What's that? Somebody's getting whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well,
so
hey.
Somebody's not doing too hot over there.
But that's what happens with running backs. The value, and what happens, and everyone does it in their leagues. You start to panic, like, I have to sell this guy. Like he's 36, and then you just end up taking the best offer, which is looking at some of those trades that people made giving up Zeke were bad offers.
Look, the time that you sell them is right when they sign their second contract. Like if I look back last year, like I sold Dalvin Cook in a number of leagues right after he signed that deal. I was able to get like DeAndre Swift and a first and Antonio Gibson, who at the time was just a maybe, right? So let's throw him out what he became and just say he was a dart throw. And I think I got Hollywood Brown in that deal too, and like a second. Like you can get, a crazy bunch of stuff right when they sign that contract, because for a second, people are like, oh man, this is great. Now I get this guy for 4 more years, 5 more years. And in reality, eventually you get Zeked. Chase, you said you had a myth for us. Let's take us to myth number 2. What have you got for us?
Well, no, let's start out with your myth, because I'm busy posting a poll to figure out if top wide receivers are worth more than top running backs because of their longevity in Dynasty.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and read Jacob's second myth because I didn't bother to put any on here. And I really like this one. It's important to have a deep bench, and in parentheses, because Jacob wants to equivocate, if that's how you say that word.
I think it is.
Depends on what? League settings. Yeah, depends on league size.
Sorry. Well, yeah. So my next myth, and you know what? I kind of agree with you, Chase. I know you're saying that isn't actually out there. I know how that poll is going to work on Twitter, because these people are all a bunch of losers like us who spend their life thinking about Dynasty. I'm trying to talk to the everyman. I'm trying to talk to the person who's coming in, just starting Dynasty, and I'm trying to help them. And I know that was a thought that I had, and I know it's a thought that others have had. But another one that people have when they join Dynasty is they get really stressed out about their bench and about, this is the team that I'm stuck with forever. They're used to redraft.
Hold on. A what?
Sorry?
A boot?
Is this a Canadian joke?
No, it's just I didn't understand what you said. A boot?
Look, when they get stressed out about their bench.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to throw you off there.
No, it's all good. If anyone doesn't know, I'm from the Great White North. Podcasting.
Wow.
I really love this take, by the way.
You guys are killing me. Point is, people, they think they need to have this really deep bench when they're in Dynasty, because you only get to add to your roster once a year in the rookie draft. The reality is, especially if you're not, this is where I equivocated. If you're not in one of these crazy 20 bench leagues, if you're just in a regular 10, 12, even 15 bench league, more guys pop up on the waiver wire than you think. I mean, I was getting Logan Thomas off the waiver wire in like 15 bench leagues last year in August. You're getting James Robinson off the waiver wire in Infinity bench leagues last summer. So you can find guys. And the biggest thing is roster spots have an opportunity cost, and people don't realize that. So a lot of times people will always take the 3 side in this 3-for-1 trade, or they'll keep trading back down in the draft and add more and more and more players. You can only roster so many more players. And if you have that roster spot, that means you can't take that guy on the waiver wire. You're going to be looking at the waiver wire and you're going to be like, man, I really wish I could add Donald Parham Jr., which you should. And you're going to be like, who do I kick off my team for this stud tight end 1? And you don't have anybody you can kick off because you've been focused too much on your bench. If there's guys on your bench that could be productive on another team that someone wants to give you something for, sell them, get a draft pick, because at the end of the day, those picks are just value that you don't have to pay for. They're sitting there interest-free on your bench. You can move them in trades. They're far more flexible, and you're not paying the opportunity cost of a roster spot for them. So you can continue to add more people off the waiver wire and then sell them for more picks, and you're getting value for free without it having to clog up your roster spot. What do you folks think about that one? And law firm guy I see in the chat is making fun of me. He says that I can't start the wrong guy if everyone on your bench sucks. I went on a legendary run last year in our league together, where for 9 straight weeks, I started my lowest scoring tight end. And so if you only have one tight end, then you just roll them out there, and then, the world's your oyster.
So I love this. I'm going to cut Chase off because he was about to jump in.
I just want to shout out Joe Reed.
Yeah, no, Joe Reed doesn't apply because no one will give you anything for it.
Colin Johnson.
So, so just, we're not talking about start 12 players, 13 player leagues like that. You need depth. You don't have a choice, really. Right. You don't, because the starting rosters are so big that the waiver wire is a fucking trash fire. But if it's 9 or 10 players, I could give a shit about depth. I never care about depth. I don't draft for depth. I don't trade for depth. I'll always consolidate pieces because I'd rather have that one hammer. Because again, when you're talking about opportunity cost, it's the same thing with roster space cost. Just because I have 2 guys that score 15 points doesn't make my team better. I want the one guy that's going to score 30 points, and then whatever the other guy, if he scores 0 half the time, but 12 points the other times, I'm ahead. I'm fine. So I love that. Andy Isabella. Wow, really?
Yeah, Andy Isabella season. No, so this actually kind of took to my point that I was going to make with one of mine as well. I didn't realize we were going the same kind of area with this. So I like doing 2 things. And it's like, you have to have handcuffs. You don't have to have handcuffs. Like you have to have these roster clogs. You don't have to have these roster clogs. Players that can play in the off week. I don't want a guy on my roster that's going to play 2 weeks unless they're a developmental prospect. Somebody like Andy Isabella, where I know that he could light up if, Christian Kirk misses some time, DeAndre Hopkins misses some time. Maybe they suck. The team that they play suck really bad up against the deep pass, or they suck up against, quicker slot receiver. So that's why I start Andy Isabella. The 1 week that I started him this season, he absolutely smashed faces. And that's the type of player that I want to have, is this high upside guy who might need to develop and, who has long-term upside. And that's for the deeper rosters, by the way. Like we're talking about 30-player roster type things. Andy Isabella, Colin Johnson, Joe Reed is a crush. I really don't know if Joe Reed's ever going to pop, but I'm not going to drop him.
Joe Reed. He's like my 3rd most rostered player in Dynasty.
Yeah. So, he's probably going to have Keenan Allen leave town before he's actually relevant, which is never going to happen. He'll probably end up out of the league. But either way, I like guys who could end up popping, or have the ability to pop, instead of having guys like maybe, I think Cole Beasley's a little bit too far out of that, or too high up, but like a poor man's Cole Beasley, essentially, or Christian Kirk, maybe. Like I don't want to roster Christian Kirk. I'd rather trade him off and get value as return.
Corey better not be watching.
Corey, calling you out. I don't want Christian Kirk. I want a Christian Kirk.
I agree with you, though. This is an interesting one. Christian Kirk, exactly. I had him in my first ever Dynasty League. I joined my home league. I've had Christian Kirk for a long time. And I was like, man, what am I going to do with Christian Kirk? He's never going to start for me because I'm way too good at Dynasty. So I always have a better roster for Christian Kirk.
Oh,
well, what am I going to do with this guy?
Really humble.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what I could do? Let's just get some free upside. And I'm just going to go trade Christian Kirk for Jordan Love. It's a super flex league, of course. And it's like, you know what, Jordan Love, I can stick him on my taxi squad next year. He costs me nothing. I don't even have to look at him. I don't have to think about him. I certainly don't have to play him in like week 13 against the Rams when he scored me 1.2 points. Christian Kirk certainly accomplished that. And it's like, then it's done. I don't have to deal with Christian Kirk in my life. I don't have to have him sitting there. I don't have to deal with these start-sit decisions. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know, who's another guy that pops to mind as like this, like when you're in the end of your drafts too, like Chase is saying, get these upside guys, get a Colin Johnson, get a freaking Joe Reed, get a Marquez Callaway is my guy. Don't go get like an Emmanuel Sanders. What's that going to accomplish?
Yeah, that's a perfect name, is Emmanuel Sanders. But Shane, how are you feeling about that? Like, are you trying to find the guys that pop as well, or are you just ready to move on to a different topic?
No, I'm always taking upside guys. I always want a guy on my bench or bottom of my roster, bottom of the lineup that can give me actually a Christian Kirk week on his best week. I live with, but that's why a lot of my teams, like, there's not a lot of in between with my rosters. I either have really good teams or really bad teams because that's just the type of players that I chase. I chase guys like Marquise Brown, you know, where if they hit, great, they're going to give me 40, 45 points. And when they don't, they're going to run off a streak of 6 weeks where they give me, 8 points a week. And I'm fine with that. I can live with that because consistency isn't a real thing anyway.
All right.
Guys like Jalen Reagor. A great target.
No, Jalen Reagor is trash.
You're trash.
All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go with my first myth.
Yeah.
And my first myth is something that, obviously you saw my team, Jacob, and I sent in the group chat. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this team up because, it's something as to where I don't feel like you have to win every single trade. Like, to sit there and say that you want to trade or try and get the best value out of your trade is kind of asinine. Because as long as you're benefiting your team overall, I don't think you have to worry about winning or losing a trade. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at a completely stacked roster of DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Dillon, possibly. Hopefully if they don't tag, A.J. Dillon, like the reports kind of.
Even if they do,
Aaron Jones.
Who cares?
Yeah, because he's going to be a boss. And then, my backups, I still got Devin Singletary as backup running back. By the way, it's only 2 running back leagues, so I'm already
speaking of roster clog, Devin Singletary.
Yeah, that could be one. But I mean, he's still he's a backup, and I could probably move him for an early second round pick in this upcoming draft. Then meanwhile, wide receiver wise, I've got like Cortland Sutton, I've got Laviska Shenault, Juice Schuster, Michael Pittman, all upcoming type guys. DJ Chark. I don't know if I said that. It's a bunch of up and coming team. Like, these are rising stars essentially. I'm going to be in contention this year, but then the following year, I'm probably going to end up dominating because I also have 9 picks in the first 2 rounds, I believe. So, with that being said, I actually have like a pretty overall loaded roster. However,
is there a point to this, or are you just saying how good your team is?
Shane, you're muted. So
I wasn't. He's just jerking off to his roster.
No. But my point being is the fact that, all right, so I got to move some pieces, right? Because I have too many draft picks. I'm already over the mandatory. Shane, what are you doing, dude? It's so distracting. All right, so I'm already over.
Cause the man a seizure.
I'm already over the mandatory people that I have to have. So at this point, I just need to dump people. But instead of dropping some of these guys we talked about earlier with high end upside, I'd much rather make a play for a higher end guy. I'd much rather make a play and combine 2 of these picks for somebody more valuable. So if I sit there and I offer something along the lines of Jonathan Taylor, along with maybe DJ Chark and Cortland Sutton, all combined for maybe, I'm just saying hypothetically, for Devontae Adams, I think technically I'd be losing that trade, right?
If you're moving Jonathan Taylor for any other player, you're losing the trade.
Okay, regardless. All right, let's just say DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about DeAndre Swift? DeAndre Swift, Cortland Sutton. Good. Okay, so essentially I'm losing the trade, right, in your mind. But, in all actuality, I have enough backups to be able to step up, and I have enough people to be able to account for the loss. Meanwhile, I'm getting the best person in that trade. So I don't think you have to technically win every single trade in order to win every single trade.
I agree with you on that, but you should never trade Jonathan Taylor.
Oh my God. Ever an example. I'm not going to. I was giving you an example because I didn't have a trade that came to mind right off the bat. Jeez. Where's Shane?
No, I don't know where Shane went.
I think his computer froze up.
It might have been, but that's all right. Okay, law firm guy. Why you don't need to bring up my bad decisions, okay? It's true. I did trade Jonathan Taylor and Diggs for Aaron Jones and Odell Beckham last year before the season, and that didn't go well.
Oh my God! Do you see this trade, Shane?
Okay, well, you got to remember, like, this is like August. It's not now, and now it looks bad. To be fair, it looked bad in like week 1. So
Jacob made this trade where he acquired Aaron Jones and OBJ for Taylor and Diggs.
Not good.
We just lost all of our listeners.
Not good. Sometimes mistakes happen. For the record, I did come in second in that league.
You got Taylor and Diggs?
No. Thanks for bringing that back there. For the record, I did come in second in that league. Unfortunately,
that doesn't make the trade any better.
Yeah, no, and in fact, it makes it worse because the guy who beat me is the guy who got Taylor and
as he should have.
But yeah, it was a tough scene. Look, I will always believe in Odell Beckham, and this year, do you think 2021's the year
for
Crickets? For Odell Beckham to return to top 5 wide receiver status?
No.
Where's he going to be playing?
Cleveland. The land.
He's not going to be
playing on the land.
Why would it be in Cleveland? They can save like $17 million or something.
For what?
And then you cut a generational talent.
What are they going to spend it on, Chase?
Getting a good wide receiver. There are plenty of them on the market this year.
They're a run-first offense. Understand that, right?
Yeah.
Odell Beckham is buddies with Baker Mayfield. That shit kind of matters because people care about, liking each other apparently in life, and all football teams. But there's
people
no
also
impetus.
Care about success.
Okay, they're a winning team with him on the field. There's no impetus to cut him. So they're going to cut him. $17
million.
Okay, and then
or
what?
Something like that. It's like it might be $15 million.
It's 15. But even if they cut him, then what? They're going to go out and spend $15 million on another wide receiver. You think?
Yeah, like Will Fuller would fit in excellent. Like
no. Will Fuller.
I don't want him to because I like
Odell Beckham. Get out of here.
No.
Oh God.
No.
You guys
I hate your myth. You should win every trade.
Same. I agree with you.
Yeah.
You just said you agree with me first. Why should you win every trade if it benefits your team?
It doesn't benefit your team when you give away value. Never benefits your team when you give away value.
There are certain
areas
trade, of value.
I've lost value.
No, because value is considered in 2 different places. Value could be considered because you're giving away a certain amount of points, essentially, that, maybe a certain app would give you in a trade calculator. But as long as you're adding value to your team in areas that you don't already have that value, I'd rather take that. I'd rather improve in an area that I don't have existent and suffer in an area that I have surplus of, because at that point it's about supply and demand. And supply and demand for your own team is crucial, because it's like sitting there and saying, hey, we have, food for days. Like we have all the meat you could want for our city.
Is it used?
Used meat. We have as much used meat as you can handle. Meat. But we don't have any, water or anything to drink. So essentially, why would we sit there and sit on the surplus that's going to go bad anyways, because you're not going to get utilization if you can trade it and grab, water, although it might not be worth the same amount, because obviously, meat is worth more than water.
I mean, first of all, you lost an analogy like an hour ago.
Yeah, so I hate when people start using false analogies. Like,
what are you
no. Fantasy. So imagine if fantasy football was like important to life, right? And you had all this water, but no food. And then you would die. That's not what happens.
It is. You die. Your fantasy league dies.
It
dies.
I wait 2 more months and then trade that player for a better trade.
Like
you're already dead.
You're out here trading for recycled meat.
You're laying on the ground.
Like it got really morbid here for a second.
By the way, it's salted beef jerky, so you're getting dehydrated even faster.
I mean, I think both of you have a point. Like, I think if you're a contending roster,
you fucking pick a side.
Don't patronize us. You pick a side.
I'm gonna fucking goddamn equivocate.
Are you gonna die, or are you just gonna, try and survive off no water for 2 months?
I think you can ration your water. I don't fucking know what this metaphor is.
You don't have any water because you're stuck with Donald Parham at the tight end position.
Drafting sucks. I mean, so you went into a draft and you were like, Just all I want is beef jerky. And no water. All right.
Also, you don't draft high.
Just moves that way over time. Maybe you made some bad draft picks that didn't pan out, like Hayden Hurst.
Okay.
Look, here's the thing. If you're a contender, another team's a rebuilder. Like, you can both win, right? Like, if what matters more to you is putting up more points every week, and what matters more to the other person is, adding more speculative value, you can definitely, have a win-win trade in that way, where maybe in the long run, you'll look back on this trade 2 years later and you'll say, man, I wish I had, the other two players as a part of this deal. But if it helps you win the league, it could work. So that's my equivocation. Before we die,
word of the day? Is this like,
I think it is.
Is this like the Pee Wee Herman Funhouse show now? Like, we're going to have a word of the day?
Well, it's word
I don't know if we should bring up Pee Wee Herman.
Like Sesame Street, but for cool kids.
Look, can we go to the next one, please?
Definitely.
As you die from no water.
Look, you guys got me for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. You do whatever you want. Let's go.
All right, this one's actually actionable, and I have actual numbers. Here's a myth: you should buy low on underperforming rookies. I always see this on Twitter. You can't log on without saying buy low on Denzel Mims, buy low on Jalen Reagor, except you should buy low on Jalen Reagor, buy low on Gabriel. All these guys. I guess Gabriel Davis isn't underperforming because he wasn't supposed to perform, but Brian Edwards, Michael Pittman, all of these guys, right? Keyshawn Vaughn. Whenever you see this, the statistics don't bear out that you should be doing this. Most of the time, good NFL players are good right away. And, I'm going to shout out DF Bean Counter Drew, and I dropped this in one of my articles. The hit rate of a second-round pick not in terms of their fantasy success, but if we're playing the value game, in terms of an average second-round rookie pick being worth more the year after than they're worth when you draft them, that's up over 60%. The odds of a player who's lost value in a given year, so, this year, probably going to be like a Brian Edwards, certainly going to be a Keyshawn Vaughn, a Henry Ruggs, those guys that have lost value. If you're buying them, there's only a 26% chance that those players are actually going to accrue value. So to me, if you have a Henry Ruggs or you have a Brian Edwards, even though, I still have a crush on Brian, if you have one of these guys, statistically, you're better off selling now for whatever you can get. Take a small L, because if they ever progress to the N'Keal Harry zone, the Josh Doxson zone, the Laquan Treadwell zone, like those guys, they kind of got 1 year of free pass from the Dynasty community, right? Remember last year, everybody was supposed to, buy low on N'Keal Harry. Well, now he's worth, a bag of potato chips at best. What do you guys think about this one? And is there any guys that you think are bucking that trend that you should go ahead and target?
Yeah, Brian Edwards?
No, don't. No, it's like Jacob said. I mean, it's a proven fact. It's science at this point. It's just, and it doesn't even matter what the reason is. It could be injury. It could be there was an earthquake. There could have been a pandemic. It really doesn't fucking matter. If they, especially receivers, if they don't break out in their first year, and the threshold, I forget what it is. It's something like 450 yards, 500 yards. If they don't hit that, they're typically never going to hit. And yeah, that breaks my heart about Jalen Reagor, and I pretend that he's going to be special.
Same.
Just like I do with most men in my life. I pretend that he's the one. But he's probably going to be like, most men in my life. He's not going to pan out for me. He's not.
Jesus. I do believe that Brian Edwards is going to be breakout just because he didn't see the field as much, or a breakout candidate.
But why didn't he see the field?
Because he was hurt. He did. He was hurt the whole time. What are you talking about?
But then he came back.
Yeah, he came back for like 4 games or something like that. How many games did Brian Edwards play?
Listen to me, buddy. And I mean this as a friend. I loved Brian Edwards. I hyped him up all last year when he was drafted to the Raiders. I was like, that's their alpha. Fuck Henry Ruggs. When he had the one game where he had like 2 catches, I was losing it on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Week 17.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Touchdown.
It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The odds are, like Jacob's saying, the odds are we could say every wide receiver that was a rookie last year that did not hit is not going to hit. And we could tell ourselves a story as much as we want to about any of them, why they will hit. It's the same story people were telling themselves about, Paris Campbell. Oh, well, this year's going to be different.
People are still telling that story.
Yeah, it's the same story people tell themselves about Laquan Treadwell. Oh, well, Corey Coleman. I'm saying if they don't hit in their first year, they're fucking toast. They're done. Finito.
I understand where you're coming from, but I think there are certain players that do see a sophomore breakout, and sophomore breakouts were a thing back a few years ago. Also, sophomore walls were a thing, and then also we had third-year breakouts. So I don't think that it's necessarily a trend or anything that we can study and say, hey, this is a definite case. I think that it's all up to the individual player. And looking at the individual players, and their skill sets, it's like, it's almost – I'm not going to say it's a lazy comparison because it's not, because it is evident in multiple different ways as to where they won't be, but it's still up to an individual basis because guess what? Like black quarterbacks, for example, that, went to Ohio State, not everybody's going to turn out to be Dwayne Haskins. It's up to the individual players. And honestly, I believe that Brian Edwards had a rough go in the offseason, with his injuries. He wasn't able to develop. They had a rough go in season. And it's something as to where he could end up breaking out. And honestly, I'd be willing to trade late third round pick and get Brian Edwards over the hit rate, which is less than 10% for a third round pick on average.
Yeah, I'll trade that if it's that late.
Okay, yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he was a third round pick last year. Mm-hmm. Like he wasn't a second round pick unless it was late.
Going in the second rounds.
He was going in second
late
in my
second.
leagues, but my leagues are filled with a bunch of nerds. So
yeah, I took him in the early second.
I'm sorry.
Early second ahead of Claypool.
Yeah, he was always ahead of Claypool in my leagues.
Yeah, Mims. Him and Mims were kind of like the all right. Well, I just drafted, Edwards in 6 straight leagues. Maybe I need to break it up a little bit and draft Mims or Pittman or throw those other guys in. But those guys were all in the same.
Did he go above Pittman?
Not in my leagues. No, in my leagues it was Edwards, Chenault, and Ayuk were in the same range, around the mid second in Superflex or early second in 1 QB.
Wait, early? No. You had Jalen Reagor who went above him, right?
Yeah, Reagor for
Justin
sure.
Jefferson.
Yeah, so the top 5 were for sure. It was Lamb, Judy, Jefferson, Reagor, Ruggs, and then after that it was
Higgins.
Okay, Higgins. Okay, Mims. Okay, Pittman, and then it was Edwards.
Yeah, that's still late second. Because if you include the running back Zach Moss, in regular. Because if you include Zach Moss, you include the 5.
Who was drafted? Unless you're a ball blast girl, you weren't drafting Zach Moss.
Okay, let's just throw out Zach Moss. Let's get rid of Zach Moss then.
Can we please get rid of Zach Moss?
Yes,
get him out of the league. You still had Gibson. You still had Dylan ahead of him, right? You still had the 5 running backs.
No. None of these running backs were going anywhere near him.
None of this is correct. Chase,
where was Gibson going?
The third.
No.
What?
Probably
in Superflex. In Superflex in my league,
quarterback.
Single quarterbacks, he was going late too, but I never saw Gibson go ahead of Edwards in a single league I was in.
I'll go look at rookie drafts from last year. How's that?
But it depends on when, right? If you look at a rookie draft in August, once the Geist situation happened, then Gibson, shot up like crazy. But before that, anyway, I don't think anyone cares about this discussion of last year's rookie drafts. But
I think this is now just a personal vendetta, but it's okay. No, but I mean, sitting there and looking at it, I just feel like, you could easily, the whole point of this conversation was to easily get Edwards for an early to late third round pick.
But how about this? I'll do this or that.
Brian Edwards last year in February, because that's when rookies were drafted by themselves on DLF. He was the 13th player off the board.
Yeah, but that was February. Anyways, let's go ahead.
Really quick on this. Let's do something actionable. So if you have Henry Ruggs, I posted a thread about Henry Ruggs recently because I've sold off every share, every mistake I ever made. Let's play this or that. Would you rather have Henry Ruggs or, if you're trading him for draft pick, Elijah Moore?
Ruggs.
Elijah Moore.
What?
Yeah, me too. I'm with Moore for sure.
Elijah Moore can't even get off the ground. He has to end up with the perfect team that runs a ton of motions. He literally cannot get off the line.
Remember when Jacob was I think he threw a stat out there. I wasn't paying attention. But only 15% of wide receivers that don't hit in their first year go on to break out.
Yeah.
Henry Ruggs is one of the former. That's the first one. Latter. He was part of that group that didn't hit in their first year. I'm just saying.
How about Ruggs or Dynamite Brown?
Ruggs.
I'll take Ruggs.
Oh, really? Oh, so you don't like De'Ami Brown at all? Then,
well, okay. So I'll say that now. But if he's drafted in the first 2 rounds, I'll probably take him.
Okay. How about this one, Chase? I'll go near to your heart. Henry Ruggs or Kenny Gainwell?
Oh, Gainwell. But just because I have Kenny Gainwell as potential top 3 running back. It just depends on landing spot. It really depends on landing spot.
Tylan Wallace or Henry Ruggs?
Wallace. I love Wallace.
Ruggs.
Yeah.
I have Wallace in my top 5 wide receivers in 2021.
Yeah.
Who's playing with wrapping paper or something?
That's me scratching my beard. Sorry.
No, there's something else. There's nothing.
I think that was me. Actually. It's the tape from my camera. Anyone got one more?
Let me see if there's any that you guys didn't say.
Chase wrote something you haven't said yet.
Both sides of the argument for handcuffs. I don't really like that either way. Handcuffs are stupid. I mean, that hurts.
It just depends on the player.
Yeah, okay. Are they good? If it's Tony Pollard, yes. If it's Alexander Madison, get the fuck up.
Well, Alexander Madison gave you a running back 1 week last year, right? Didn't he? 1 week.
He also gave you like 4 points against Atlanta when he was like in 70% of DFS lineups.
Well, that's not great. Yeah, no.
All right, let's go ahead and go to the conclusion. What do you got?
Bye, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Conclusion.
Yeah, well, I'm just wrapping up. If you have any more, if you're listening to this later and you want to DM me, or if you want to DM the page with some of your myths, I'll talk about that on Twitter. I'll give you a shout out. And otherwise, I'm Jakob Sanderson. You can find me FF_RTDB on Twitter. You can find my work, as I said, on Join Our Circle _. Although if you want me to knit with you, I can learn how to knit. And we'll spit over Chase. Where can everybody find you? I think most of us know.
Yeah, Join Our Circle _ Wahoo. And then FF_Intervention. Jacob, great show today. It's kind of funny. I didn't even realize, like, I'm sitting there and I'm going through everything, and I was like, shit, I have a myth show tomorrow with Matt Waldman at 8 o'clock. So I'm very excited for the Wednesday show at 8 o'clock, but it's going to be, what to research and what to look at for myths moving forward in the draft community.
2021 is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's year. Dynasty hot sauce. The absolute best take. Shane, where can we find you? And do you think 2021 is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's year?
No, well, in the CFL maybe.
Don't put that on my country. I don't want J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Don't put that on my country.
I'm sorry. He'd probably be a pretty good wide receiver for the Argonauts. Just saying. The Stampeders could use some size.
Go Blue Bombers.
Yeah. I don't know. You find me wherever, whatever. Just tweet at me and I'll tweet something at you. If it's mean, I'll be mean. If you're nice, I'll be nice. If you want to talk football, tweet at me too. Yeah, tweet football stuff at me. I'll whatever. Make sure you're following Jacob and my buddy Chase here, though.
Yeah. We have
this is Shane and the Handsome Young Boys video show.
Yeah, if you have name ideas, please. We're open-minded, let's say.
All right, this has been Boys Night Out. Thank you guys for listening, and thank you all for letting us interview with your fantasy football life. We're out.